I think like many kids who discovered Dragon Ball and anime, it was from staying up too late on a Saturday night while on Cartoon Network and Toonami and Adult Swim came on. I think the first episode I can remember watching was from the Namek saga, and I'm pretty sure it's when Goku makes it to Namek and helps all the Z-Fighters with the Ginyu Force. I remember thinking this was the greatest thing I had ever seen before, and then I made the mistake of watching an episode in the living room, and then a commercial for Kill La Kill came on. She said, "I'll kick your ass," and I wasn't allowed to watch Adult Swim until like 6th grade, and that's when the Buu saga and Dragon Ball Super started airing, and of course now I've seen the entire series. But for this video, I wanted to discuss growing up with Dragon Ball and share some memories you might relate to. When I started watching Dragon Ball and anime in general, it was before what a lot of anime fans call the Great Shift, where basically before 2020, anime was super lame and you were a loser for liking it, and they were so right. If you even thought about talking about anime, expect to be bullied or for people to think you're a weirdo, but with Dragon Ball Z it was different. I remember accidentally talking about Dragon Ball a little too loud with one of my friends, and then some of the popular kids overheard me, and they said, "You watched Dragon Ball Z?" And I said, "Yeah," and he said that was cool, and that they watched it too. I was genuinely in shock. I expected my life to be over right there. I think you could probably get away with all the popular battle shonen like the big three, but I didn't want to risk it. I just knew Dragon Ball Z was the only cool one you can get away with liking and watching. And now I feel like it's almost the opposite, with new gens hating on Dragon Ball for zero reason, but that's a different conversation for another day. One of the first Dragon Ball games I've ever played wasn't official, but it's one of those games that you would play when your school has all the cool websites blocked on the computers, and that game is Dragon Ball Devolution. Dragon Ball Devolution is something I don't see get talked about very often, but it does have a small dedicated fan base. This game is actually really fun for a small fan game, and if you're in school and you're bored, I guess you should try it. Now for the first official video games I played were the Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi games. For the longest time, I only had a Wii and a GameCube growing up, and I couldn't play any Xenoverse games or any new game at the time. I remember people would ask me if I had a PS4 or Xbox One, and I was like, Wii? But those were the perfect games to hold me over before I got to play any new games. And honestly, I'm so glad I only had old consoles, because I don't think I ever would have played these games without that. And I gotta say, if you have a Wii or any other way to play these games, you need to play them ASAP if you haven't already, because you are seriously missing out on these games. They are so fun and have aged beautifully. These games, especially the third one, have stood the test of time incredibly well. I'd even go as far to say that these games are better in some ways than the games we have now, like a large character roster in BT3, and clearly, I do have my favorite, but it is just objectively true. BT3 has like the largest roster. If you want to play as Q for whatever reason, you can play as Q. If you want to play as Grandpa Gohan, you can play as Grandpa Gohan. But I will say the cutscenes in BT2 are so much better, and I prefer the open world. They kind of cheaped out on that in BT3, but it's still my favorite. It's the best overall gameplay. Also, anyone who grew up on these games knows how fun the tournaments were. And of course, I played Xenoverse 1 and 2. I got both of those games the very second I got my PS4 back in the day. We are ready for Xenoverse 3. And I played Fighters, but I mainly just played online and with my friends. I didn't like the story, aside from Android 21 of course. But one of my favorite games during this era was DBZ Kakarot. And I remember this game having its haters, and it still might, but I love that game. I love the recreated intro, the graphics that mimic the anime, beautifully done cutscenes. I felt like the game was very fun for me, and it was kind of a comfort game for me during COVID. Now I will say, I kept pressing the wrong buttons because I played a lot of Xenoverse. I wish they just gave them the same controls. And I'm not sure how many of y'all played Roblox games, but two Dragon Ball games I would always play were Dragon Ball Z Rage and Dragon Ball Z Final Stand. Those two games were like a hangout spot for me, where me and my friends would quote-unquote train and have our own storyline fighting villains. And it was just an all-around fun time for me. And those games are still thriving pretty well now, so if you're interested, I'd definitely check them out if I were you. When it came to YouTube content, obviously I watched Dragon Ball Z Abridged. We all know and love Team 4-Star. Even people who haven't watched Dragon Ball probably know them, and have probably seen the series. But I think my favorite has to be the movie parodies, and the one I'm most nostalgic for has to be the Broly movie, but the SSJ 9K version.
Yeah, they made me want to sing.
Stop it, you know what that does to me.
Beans, I love
Those senzu beans.
And honestly, the SSJ 9K version is so much funnier in my opinion.
Wait! What? It's just that it's been so long since someone has held me by the back of my head. I've almost forgotten how loving it feels. My father used to hold me this way as an infant.
I just enjoyed it a lot more, and I watched that one a lot more. It's really underrated. If you're not familiar with him, you've probably seen this meme on Instagram or TikTok. this was definitely one of my favorite anime YouTubers growing up. I loved the parodies and the songs that he made. I would listen to the rap battles over and over again. I do not care. His parody songs are genuinely good. I started listening to them again unironically. I think my favorites are Gohan's Guidance and Saiyan Mode. Another channel I would watch is Prince Vegeta. I used to really like his channel when I was younger, but there has just been too many memes about him, and I just can't take it seriously anymore. I also watched Bulma Bunny, but unfortunately, she doesn't really upload anymore. The last few things I wanted to throw out there is Ultra Instinct Shaggy. I don't know if that counts as a Dragon Ball meme, but I know Gohan Blanco, which is technically canon now, versus El Hermano is. Anyways, Dragon Ball means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to you guys too. So let me know what your favorite Dragon Ball memory is, and I'll respond to every single one of them.